Well, here's my quote for today that is a little unusual because it's about my guest. There are many prophets who bang the drum loudly. Arthur Rainville has quietly set an illustrious stage with his work and his teachings for half a century. He wields his lens with the soul of a great portrait painter. It's been said he deserves the bravissimo afforded a maestro. And I forget who said that, but I wholeheartedly agree. So hello and welcome
Might have
again.
been me.
Yeah, maybe it was you, Arthur. Hi, and welcome again to a very special episode of The Profitable Photographer. My guest is one of my favorite humans, and I know you're going to be so touched and inspired by what he has to share. But I'm warning you, you might fall in love because Arthur's kind of lovable. And he was on an episode maybe a year or two ago. So if you need more, you can always search back for Arthur on this show. Also, you can spend a whole day with Arthur in California, November 8th or 10th of 2022, and stay to the end of the show and you'll get more details. And I will be at the Southern California ones if, what is it, God willing, and the creek don't rise. Creek don't rise. That's it.
That's all right.
So welcome, Arthur. Thank you for saying yes to being on
I
the show
always
again.
look forward to this.
You what?
I always look forward to this. I would never say no to you. That's for
I
sure.
love that. So I met Arthur at a time when I was lacking vision and motivation in my career. The world was changing to digital, and I was that last person that wasn't going to give up their film. I wanted to do my cave paintings in goat blood. I didn't want to I didn't want to change. And taking a class with Arthur for a week totally shifted me back. So I'm just excited. I guess you can tell I'm kind of gushy. um, okay. And we can do the whole show on just introducing you, Arthur, and then
Yeah.
so Arthur is a master craftsman photographer. He has been creating stunning, beautiful romantic images for over 50 years. He has had displays in museums in 3 continents. He's taught portraiture professionally for those 50 years. He has received the Helen Yancey Lifetime Achievement accolade. And yeah, that's about it. All right, Arthur. Hello. How are you?
I'm exactly the same, but much more mature than the rest.
I don't think of you as ever. Oh yeah, I guess you don't get old. You
No,
can
well,
mature.
your brain slows down, but your body says, "I've had enough."
Yeah, but not yet, right?
Not yet. No.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, and I'm imagining you can understand what I'm talking about. A lot of my colleagues who've been in this business a long time, like you and I, talk like the sky is falling. Digital's ruined everything. You can't charge well for anything. No one wants real portraits anymore. Um, People won't spend money. People are giving away the files, so no one can make a living in this industry. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that probably that thought process has been around since day one,
Uh-huh.
just with a new face. Yeah, I lived through all of that changeover from film to digital, but I heard it early on in a different version. So I grew up in this business because my father was a small town portrait photographer.
Oh.
And so I just rolled on into it because I didn't know what else to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I almost had a different career. I probably should have the initials AAP after my name, almost a priest.
Whoa.
Thought I should do that. It seems like, but before I followed that path, I had my little chit chat with God, and God says, okay, it would be welcome to have you, but there's a disclaimer I have to do, and that is, besides all of this, I did invent girls. So as soon as I understood there was an option, I gave up the whole priest thing. So anyway, I became a photographer. And back in those days, he was still shooting 8x10 black and white sheet film in the studio. And I know there may be some people listening that are not sure what that is, but that's all right. But let's just say it's black and white film.
Mhm.
And so now I'm the young hotshot, and I say, well, I ain't doing that. We're going to go to color, roll film.
Mm.
And everybody says, no, people aren't going to pay any money for color. It doesn't look professional, you know. So the story just changes chapters, but it's the same story.
Yeah.
The bottom line is still the same answer with a different face.
Mm-hmm. And what is that?
So we just have to make the pictures that they can. It's that simple. Slash, no period there, comma, and then let them know it. And that's the tricky part this day and age. So nowadays, everybody makes cell phone pictures and it's getting better all the time. The first Fuji camera you and I had was 2 megapixels. And now the new iPhone is 48 megapixels.
Right.
Portrait mode is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't that they can't make good pictures now. And in the old days, they couldn't make good pictures, so they had to come to a professional. Now they can make good pictures. So what's the difference? What can we offer them that they can't do for themselves?
Right. Right.
That is taking it all to a higher level, which is in essence what my all-day workshops are going to be out there. And there's multiple aspects of that. And it's based on the concept of Leonardo da Vinci being the Renaissance guy. And he, of course, there was many others before and after him, but he was the one who had the good PR person and became the Renaissance guy.
I accidentally paused you. So there's the technical, there's the aesthetic.
The technical aesthetic, and then there's another level. And that's the level that I think is the important level now.
Okay.
Because their phone's making them technically pretty good. They have some pretty fancy apps to make them aesthetically pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
What can we separate then? What can we do that they can't do?
Mm-hmm.
And it's based off the concept of snapshot, right? Why do people love their own snapshots of family and friends and good times and everything else? Because they trigger a specific memory.
Mm.
That's the value of the snapshot, not how it looks, it's the memory it triggers. So if we can get better at that aspect of it, and then let them know that we are, so we have to be able to be good at translators and let them know that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great quote by the futurist John Nesbitt that I always use. The more high-tech we become, the more high-touch we desire.
Ah.
People want this. They may not know it, but they intrinsically know.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's the why. That's the bottom reason why we are all portraitists. And I've often talked about the difference between a photographer and a portraitist. A photographer records, a portraitist reveals. The portraitist needs to reveal something about the personality, something about the memory, whatever that is. And there's lots of ways to learn to do that. But the number one way is for you to understand the importance of that and empathize enough with the other person that they get that you care.
Mm. How do you do
have
that?
a customer for life. I mean, I just went to a garage with the car because I was getting this grinding sound, and he said, wait a minute, rolled it in, lifted it up, looked, found it, fixed it within 5 minutes with one screw came out. And I said, fine, that's great. What do I owe you? He said, you would never owe me anything for something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to go anywhere but there.
Right.
The more that we can connect with people, the better the photograph will be, the more meaningful it will be, and the better we can make our life. It's not about the size. It's not about any of that stuff that's going to make the big bucks. It's going to be about them cherishing it.
Mm,
That's where the value is. Think of all the horrendous, terrible things we've seen over the last year of war and hurricanes and everything else. And it's always those images of people clutching their pictures.
right. Right.
They get this.
Right.
We just have to embrace it.
Yes. We in San Diego, if people have paid any attention, you know that we get fires. We don't have floods,
Yep.
rarely have an earthquake. It's not like people think about. And people have told me when there was an evacuation order where they pretty much, like at one point, there was 500,000 people that evacuated, and they were people in my ideal client base.
Yeah.
And I heard from so many of my clients that said the first thing we loaded in the car after we got the kids and the pets was your portraits, because we did not want to lose those. And you know, that makes me feel so good about how I've spent my career. And one of the reasons, and I'm sure like you, one of the reasons I like to teach and coach other people is because I can't photograph everybody in the world and save their family memories. So to help people have thriving businesses doing what they love is also so satisfying. So we wanted to talk a little about your why, and I know you have some thoughts on that. Can you?
Oh, it's got to, I mean, after 50 years of this, it got to the point of being retrospective, at least of my thoughts on it all. And I think I started out, like I said, I started out with my father, and I was the young hotshot, so I learned fancy lighting, and I learned fancy posing, and he was still doing flat, boring old lighting, and he had never learned anything. He just started on his own. And so I was making these really technically nice and aesthetically exciting pictures and things, and people liked my portraits, but they loved his pictures. And I kept saying, oh, for God's sake, mine are so cool. Why do you love his pictures? And I would be upset that he was just like a dummy. He didn't want to learn anything new and exciting. And then I lived in a town full of dummies that didn't appreciate my stuff. And it was many years later before I figured it out that all those customers that I thought were dummies because they didn't appreciate my pictures, had not gone and learned lighting and posing and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
My father didn't want to. What he had was that amazing, caring connection with every person who sat in front of him. He had that great gift of gab, and he asked them questions like meaningful things to them.
Mhm.
In the process of that, he got beautiful, genuine expressions.
Mhm.
And that's what they liked. They didn't care if it was fancy, this, that, or anything else.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like wearing a medal. I'm the dummy. A long time to figure that one out.
Yeah.
And that's what I've worked at now for so many years. So yes, you do want to get better at lighting, posing, everything else. You want to be able to tell people why your fancy lighting and posing and everything is cool. It's not as big a deal today as the emotional branding of what you can do.
Tell me what you mean by emotional branding.
So, Luci, you mentioned earlier, you mentioned it to me last time we were chit-chatting about how you ended up where you are this minute. And a piece of that story, of course, was your fact that your father was having to come up with a sermon every week.
Yeah.
And here you are having to come up with a me every week or something like this.
Yeah.
And a message. And no one would have ever been able to tell you that's what was going to happen with your life.
No.
You had to feel your way into that moment.
Mm-hmm.
What was the big reveal? Was there one moment that you realized that you were doing the same kind of thing? Was there an awakening?
Well, so when I was a wedding photographer, uh, I was headed to a wedding one Saturday and realized I was working in churches on the weekend, like my dad, and that, made me laugh a little bit and realize, oh, I also get my afternoon naps like him. And the pastor, for the most part, is self-employed. So thought that was interesting. And then when I started coaching, I had an aha as I had my calendar full of people that I was going to be sitting and trying to make their life better. Realized, oh, my dad did a lot of counseling, coaching. And then it just, I think I was having anxiety because I didn't have an idea. I didn't have someone to interview for my podcast, and it's like the train, it just keeps rolling. There's another Wednesday that comes around. And so that was the aha, that like anxiety, and the desire, especially when I'm doing my solo episodes, to share something meaningful, important. So it was just like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm still, you know, working the way he did. And also, his goal was not to make a big pile of money. His goal was to be of service. And that's always, yeah, I like big piles of money, but being in service to people, doing what my heart's calling tells me to do at the moment, is the why. So yeah, I think we've segued it's not a good word,
Right?
segued into the why is.
And if I had a camera on your face while you were just talking about that, there was a different twinkle in your eye.
Hmm.
That's what we have to get good at, understanding and seeing and capturing. I keep saying how we have to translate it and let people know this. I'm telling you, when they see the picture, they'll know. They'll know you did exactly what you were supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the satisfaction of it is, I guess you'd say, the end result, it goes hand in hand.
Right.
And at a certain point, when I was, my brain was telling me it was time to grow my photography business even more, but my heart wasn't in it. And I had a coach who asked me, like, what else? And I started to cry and said, I've always felt like I should be teaching and coaching. I've always done it for free, but it doesn't feel like financially it's a good move. And I love photography. And she told me, your heart won't be happy if you don't do that. And so the moral of that story is it's also okay to pivot when something else is calling. Would you agree with that or speak to that a little?
And this first step is to give yourself enough time to recognize the pivot.
Mm-hmm.
We're living in this crazy world where everything is, we're running around more like chickens with our heads cut off, but we're doing it electronically now.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up learning things from the Encyclopedia Britannica. And my parents were so thrilled to have an encyclopedia in the house and everything. And now I live every day on Google and researching and studying art, all the museums you could never go to, and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're living in a very fast-paced world, but we've bought into it, and we're on our phones every minute. I mean, we're never still, and we almost need to give ourselves the gift of still to figure some things out like that.
Mm.
So I was, and a lot of this came from one day somebody asked me, how did you get to be you? And I had to really stop and think about that. And it was what we talked about, that I started out because my father had a studio. I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And so that's what I started doing. And for years I went along, and I don't regret a moment of it. I'm thrilled at every picture I ever made for someone. But one day a guy said to me, he said, oh, your mother was that kindergarten teacher at the elementary school that I went to, he said, I really didn't want to go to school when I was that little kid. And boy, my parents didn't want me. They did everything they could to get me to like going. And he said, and she changed everything.
Mm,
Your mother made my life possible.
mm.
And I started thinking about that. And next thing you know, I realized I enjoyed teaching. I felt more fulfilled even than I did making photographs. And
Mhm.
that was my pivot. You just have to listen. And if we're too crazy, we don't get to listen. I'm 3/4 of the way through writing a new book. Pray God that I finish it. And it's called Ken Zen, The Art of Reflective Creating.
10 what?
Ken Zen, The Art of Reflective Creating.
10 Zen?
Yeah, and so the bottom line is the reflective part is the important part. The Ken is from the idea of seeing beyond the normal, what you first glance at,
Mm.
seeing deeper. And the Zen part is feeling deeper. And then ultimately, but between the two, creating something new.
Seeing deeper?
It's mostly a time thing and slowing down, and you will make better. I don't know if we made better pictures in the old days, but we made deeper pictures. Maybe that's the right word. You know?
Mhm.
A great example of that is how are we doing for time? Don't I have to slow down?
Oh, we can go on forever.
Right. We'll crop it off. When I started, my father was doing 4x5 sheet film weddings. And
Mhm.
he'd take, 15 pictures and come home exhausted.
Right.
So then I said, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm taking color, right? I'm the hot shot. So I switched to color roll film, 120 roll film.
Mm.
12 pictures on a roll.
Mhm.
Time, there was only one lab in the whole country that was going to process that as a professional lab, and that was Monkey Color in Hialeah, Florida. And so you would send them your roll of 12 pictures. They would make 12 8x10s
Mm.
and slide them into plastic pages in an album and send it back to you. That was the package you delivered, 12 pictures. So you went to the bride's house. You went to the bride's house and you did one picture of her and the parents, one picture of her and the bridesmaids. You're out of there. You go to church now. You got one picture of the bride going down the aisle with the father, one picture of putting a ring on, whoever, whether she or he does it, one picture of the first kiss, and one picture walking out. Now you've shot half your load.
Mhm.
So you got 6 done. Now you go out to the park or wherever you're going to do your formals. You get one whole picture of the wedding party, one whole picture of the bride and both sets of groom, both sets of parents, one beautiful picture of the bride and groom, one beautiful picture of the bride alone. That's 9.
Mhm.
You got 3 pictures for the reception.
And I
One picture
guess,
cutting the cake, one picture the first dance, and one picture goodbye.
yep,
You can't miss one.
right. Yep. Did you say
Can't have
that coming
blink.
down the aisle? I
Yeah.
thought coming down the aisle was the most important picture you can take when I started.
Yeah.
And my sister, she was married in, I don't know, 77. And we have a book that's 24 images. And I know it was sheet film, I'm pretty sure. And they were all 8x10s. And even though she's no longer married to him, that album has been looked at countless times over the decades. And there's yeah. So
But it's
I
slowing
was
down to make those pictures really good and getting really
right,
good at making that. And
right,
not praying thousands and hope there's some good ones in there. That's
right.
not
Spending half your life at the computer editing or paying somebody to do that.
and it takes the importance of it away too.
Right.
So
One of the reasons I did not want to switch from film is I knew that the digital life was like taking on another part-time job. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons I switched. Actually, I was thinking about though my film days, and it was getting harder to focus. And I would blame my camera, but so digital actually did help me create a lot of images that I enjoyed more, could be a little more free, but oh my gosh, the time spent
Well, that's only because
sorting
we
through
increased the
those.
numbers of pictures we were taking
Right.
because it was cheap now.
Yeah. It's
So we were our own
free.
worst enemies on that one.
Yeah.
Everything that happens in life has two sides of the coin. There's the good side and the other side that's not so great sometimes.
Mm.
By going to digital, the goodest thing
Mm-hmm.
that's what my grandkid says, the goodest thing, Grandpa, is that all of a sudden, remember in the old film days, you looked at the back of the camera and there was nothing to look at.
I know. Well,
And you
if
put
I
that
was smart, I'd put the little tab from the film so I knew what kind of film
that's
was
about it.
in the
That's
back.
about all you could do, right?
That's it.
And then you took that and roll of film at the end of the day with the wedding stuff, and you sent it off to the lab, and you waited a week to 10 days and prayed every day
Yeah.
that the pictures would come back and they'd be okay. You lived under that constant low-level stress
Mm-hmm.
until you saw the results.
Yeah.
Now, digital, instantly because you look at the back of the camera. Now, the downside is you're paying more attention to that than you are your job, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Good enough for everything.
Yeah.
The trick is to manage and try to remember some of the value of what you're letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And coming back to paying more attention to what you're supposed to be doing than looking at the back of the camera.
Right. I don't remember who started the word chimping, but I took a class with somebody, one of the greats, that was helping us, and they said, you're not allowed to chimp. And we're like, what does that mean? And he said, looking at the back and going, ooh, 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 like a chimp. So no chimping. Yeah, once we're not recording anymore, I'll remember who that was. Yeah. So anything else about the why, about how somebody can discover that?
Well, you have to figure out your own why. We both talked about our whys, why teaching is meaningful and where the value is to us and stuff. I used to always use a line as you and I or anyone listening that's a portrait photographer, portraitist. I used to say, you were put on this planet to leave a tender trail.
To leave a tender trail?
Yeah.
Mm.
Right? You were put here to capture X amount of images for people. That's why you're here.
Mm.
I used to always show the picture of my father at the end of his life. And he's in the picture, but I'm holding his hands and stuff. And I realized that shutter finger pushed his dang camera button a bazillion times.
Mm.
And he made generations of portraits for people all over my town. And they're not fancy, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
They'll never hang on a museum wall, but they hang on hot walls and they're priceless.
Mm-hmm.
That's his why. It's our why as a portraitist.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to sit down and discover your why. Even if you already know it, you need to reaffirm it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes your purpose. Everything you do is based on that why.
Mm.
So I need to get better at my conversational skills, maybe, is something that you need to do to achieve your why, to make your purpose thing happen. There's we need to analyze ourselves and say, where's my strengths? Where's my weaknesses? My strength. I love to play on research personally. I love looking for new stuff all the time. New art, new this, that. And you get better at something when you do it a lot. But I should be spending more time learning to write words better. The writing part of my book is multiple editors, many generations maybe. So you should work at your good and your not so good stuff. That's the stuff you figure out along the way. But all of that becomes bringing your why into focus so you can accomplish that. Becomes your purpose.
Yeah. So one of the things that I found interesting at this point in my life is allowing myself to not always be having to accomplish and do things and research and push myself and grow and make more money. I'm comfortable enough. I'm doing fine. A lot of people just plain retire, but here you are, here I am. So what do I want to know from the great and powerful Arthur Rainville about this
I've been
phase
retired.
of life?
I'm coming out of retirement. I've been
Not full time though, right?
kind of retired full time for the last, I don't know, half a dozen years or so.
Uh-huh.
Traveling was difficult, and I thought a lot of people just wanted to hear from a young hotshot, not somebody who was just shot. And so for a lot of reasons, I just pulled back and said, maybe my time is done on that, and that's okay.
Boo.
Then, when Tom Brady came out of retirement, I said, well, if he can do it, I can do it, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured out how he did it. He just didn't tell his wife he was going to do it.
Uh-huh.
Other than that, I said, maybe it's time to do it one more time. If you still have some message in you, something that has not been said, I think you owe it to yourself and whoever's supposed to hear it to do that.
Yeah.
That's why you keep going too.
Yeah. When I think about that, I feel like I'm semi-retired, and then I realize, oh, I'm podcasting and I'm coaching and I'm, doing all kinds of things. So really, no, I'm not. But I've allowed myself more ease of time to read, I finally got back to the gym after the big COVID shutdown. And it's like, dang, I forgot. I really enjoyed this. I love the feeling of being stronger and fitter and, just more juice flowing. And that possibly what feels like semi-retirement for me is a feeling I might have had my whole life if I had slowed down, and that I maybe didn't need to push myself as much and work even smarter. I love the smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
But maybe this is what life is like for other people their whole life. Do you have a thought on that?
Well, part of it is understanding what's smarter and harder. I mean, I thought I was being smarter when I was learning, a fancy new lighting thing, or smarter when I learned to edit, differently or whatever. And you are. And that's what seemed important at the time. And maybe it was important at the time. Those early days of digital, it was brutal. I mean, we were trying to get a decent print and it was hell on earth. Crossover and mores. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So we needed to kick it up and learn how to do
Right.
that. But I was still making pictures that, when I started to think about it, were kind of empty. I look back on some of them now, and they were very pretty and all that stuff, and people bought them and stuff, but let's just say they weren't what I could do today.
Right.
And the only reason today they'd be better is because I would spend more time talking to you than moving lights around and everything else.
Right.
It's really that simple.
Yeah. So I think how I can say this. Why does it always feel like or how do you create this in your life where you're always fresh? I never think of Arthur as like, yeah, I've been there, done that with Arthur, and he's just repeating himself. And when I took that class with you, we were doing things like, oh, wait, that what's it called? Screensaver in front of your projector. Let's put people in front of that and see what we can do. Like you pushed yourself and us to do things that were like really outside of the box. Like, where does that come from in you?
Like I said earlier, we all have things that we're attracted to as a creative, I mean, let's go back and set the stage on this one. I've always said, and you were saying always something new. It needs to be new. There's also lots of my messages that I think are important enough that I've held on to for years. But the idea of new and discovering new has always been a great joy for me. And I had to go and do an archaeological dig on myself and figure out where that came from. And I have to go back and give my mother all that credit. My father was busy running the studio. But my mother, partially being the teacher and all, I mean, we were National Geographic aficionados. That National Geographic would come in every month, and she and I would sit down and we'd go through every page and not just read the stories and look at the pictures. We think about the stories and the pictures. What was the person climbing the mountain feeling when he couldn't hold on for one more second? She took it to a deeper level. It made my brain think deeper than just what the story was on the surface. And I think that intrinsically where it started. And like I said, every single day now for 55 years, I can honestly say without a lie that I have spent at least an hour, unfortunately lately more than like 6 hours, doing research. I just love the idea of research. And in doing that is where you find your new ideas. Picasso said, good artists copy, great artists steal. I'm not looking to steal somebody else's idea, but it spins in my head and becomes a workable new idea for me. And so the research is always studying not just the art of another photographer, a painter, or whatever, but where you really get the pearls is in studying their life. How did they get through artist blocks and all of that stuff? So I just find fun in learning new things, and that becomes the next new thing you can share and stuff. But it wasn't until I started reading some Zen stuff that I got the next level of realizing there was a deeper level of creating too. I'm creating a connection between myself and whoever it is I'm photographing or talking with or whatever.
So are you still photographing?
Well, I do photograph my grandkids on my phone an awful lot. I mean, I spend, right now, my official title for my little 8-year-old is Grandpa Plastic Horse Veterinarian. Because she keeps breaking the legs on the little plastic horses and can't use super glue yet, so I have to become, I'm spending an awful lot of time doing veterinarian stuff. But yes, I don't do much portraits. Last ones I did were the veterans.
Yes, that was fabulous.
Yeah. A lot of veterans. But I'm concentrating more on this world now. I'd like to get this book done. And it's really not a book about photography. More of a book on life and stuff like that.
I love it. Yeah, I was trying to pull up this quote, but I couldn't find it. I was the editor of my yearbook in high school, and I filled it with quotes and poetry, and it really, if you look at it, it's a really deep reflection of me. And in, I don't know what section, but we did a title page, and it was a picture of a child, and over it there was this quote that starts out, "There's no need for a personality to grow old." And I wish I could remember the rest. It's like, the thing is to assess life honestly. Maybe if I find the quote, I'll put it in the show notes, but that stuck in my head. And I feel like you and I have made a decision at some point not to grow old, even if our bodies change and someday we're going to be dust or stardust, we'll just say. But I'm sure people are always surprised if they've not seen you, they don't know about you, but they talk to you, that you've been around as long as you have. And I always consider it a compliment when people are like, like even when I was 20, they thought I was older. And then when I was 30, they thought I was younger.
Yeah.
And, it's always been like, oh my gosh, not just looks, but because my goal is to keep living in the present. We talk about Zen
Yeah.
and also be like launching rockets into the future and holding dear my past. And so I think you and I share that.
As long as you keep your wheel spinning up here, it's pretty hard to let go and slow down.
Yeah.
I'm 76. I figure I got 30 more good years ahead of me. So
Yeah.
I got time to pull it together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wanted to celebrate my 100th birthday with my mom. I don't think that's going to happen. But one of my life goals is on my 100th birthday to photograph a baby and to ride some waves on a boogie board in the ocean. So
That I want to try to hang around for. I like to see that.
okay. All right. I'll see you then. Okay.
How
Couple
about a
questions.
quote from your dad? I was just thinking about that.
Say what?
So, did you ever get to sit and talk with your dad about any aspect of any sermon or anything that way? Probably wasn't something that you would do at that point. I get it.
But so sadly, when I really was able to have the conversations I would have liked to have had, my dad got Parkinson's and then a side order of dementia. But I'm sure like the heart of his sermons were always about love and service. And I think maybe one of the reasons I love you is like my dad, when something touches you, you get tears in your eyes. And he, at least half of his sermons, he would tell a story and he would get tears. And, I'm like that as well. But so why do you ask?
I guess because I wish I had done the same thing.
Yeah.
My father ended up with Parkinson's too. So
Ah,
I know what it's all about.
yeah.
We get so, and we've all done it. Did it. Everybody does it. I get it. You have to work so much to make the dollar bills to live, and take care of people and do all of that stuff. It takes all of your attention, all of your mental focus and everything else. And at the end of the day, you just pull it together and go to bed, pretty much.
That's
You
not
have
the
to
good
spend
life.
more time with you,
Yeah.
you have to spend some time with yourself.
Yeah.
That's where the answers are going to come. The answers aren't going to come for anybody from you or me,
Mhm.
we twinkle, but the real answers that you out there need are already inside you.
Yeah.
You just give yourself a chance to listen.
Hmm. Like the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy, it's always been, you've always had the answer. So I love that. Yeah. Okay, I have two questions for you, my darling.
Yep.
Number one, I know that you are coming to California, yay, and you are speaking for a day in Northern California and a
Yeah.
day in Southern California.
Yeah.
So what are the dates and what are you going to be covering?
So the first date is Tuesday, November 8th. That's up in wine country. And the second one is down in Orange County. That's November 10th. It's Thursday. And 7 hours.
Mhm.
I hope
And there's airports close to both, by the way.
Yeah, I hope I got 7 hours in me. You might
Yes,
have to
you
wake me up part way, but
do.
we can do it. It's a lot of what we've talked about today. I mean, there will be aspects that are technical. There'll be some new thoughts on some lighting that's applicable and posing and art. There's a lot on art where how you find new ideas and where you draw ideas and what's worked for other people and stuff. Remember, we're trying to create images they can't do for themselves on their phone. So there'll be a lot of that stuff. But then there's a lot of what we've just been talking about too, how you can pull it together for what matters to you and make the work that you want to make, not the work somebody else wants you to make. There'll be business aspects of it because there are ways that have worked for me over the years chasing an art market. In other words, why struggle to get customers that somebody else already has or that's not interested in you or what you'd like to do? I would like you to make your living doing what you love to do. So there'll be some business stuff. It's going to be some of everything. It's going to be that Renaissance whole process coming together to be what you want it to be.
Love it. Okay. Well, I got to call up Dwayne in Orange County and
so professional photographers of Wine Country, California, their website, or professional photographers of Orange County down south on their website will give you all the info how to connect them.
Awesome. So the second question, and I know this is you have like probably 100 answers to this, but is there something that you haven't shared or there's something you'd like people to take away from this conversation especially?
I guess it's where I am right now is exactly what we've been talking about. Maybe that happens as you get to the maturity stage. You think more inwardly. What matters to me, what, you know. I sat with the two grandgirls on the side of the bed the other day. What I'm trying to do a lot these days is concentrate on the now. You mentioned it earlier. This moment. I mean, I really appreciate a lot being with you this moment. God willing, I got lots more of them, but I made this may be it. Really, if it's joy, this hopefully value.
Yes, and I'll see
you. So live in the now as much as you can.
Yeah,
one of them is important.
I know it goes so fast, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But actually, when we live in the now, it seems slow to me. It seems.
Well, of course, out here now is happy hour. You know.
Oh, all right.
You know,
even better. Okay, so everyone, you can check the show notes for that information about the 2022 world tour of Arthur Rainville.
It'd be the beginning. It might be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and best way to contact you. I know you are happy to have conversations with people and answer emails and stuff. So how do they get there?
Quickest thing is to send me an email. I know that's old fashioned nowadays, but my email is rain, RAIN, photo, FOTO, rain photo at AOL.com. I'm still one of those early adopters that hasn't made the switch out.
Yeah, one day I thought I'd check my AOL account and I couldn't even get into it.
I know. My son's telling me you got to get rid of that. You got to get with it.
Who cares?
Sure I want to get that with it, but it's okay.
Who cares? All right.
You find me if you want.
Yeah, he's findable. Thank you, Arthur. You know, I adore you beyond words. Everybody's like, what is this, a big love fest?
See you in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye.
So I have said adieu to the lovely Arthur Rainville, and I want to remind you, I don't know if I said this at the beginning, so I'll say it again, or for the first time, that this episode and more are also going to be published now on my YouTube channel. So The Profitable Photographer with Luci Dumas is the YouTube channel, and some will be audio only, but when I can do a video where I don't make too many dumb mistakes and talk over myself and things, you know, work on being perfectly imperfect, then I will post the videos that don't need to be edited. So look for that. There's about 10 episodes that I went backwards to some earlier ones that were popular. And let's see, my quickie summary. This is hard with Arthur. I'm just going to say, live in the now, offer something different, and then find ways for people to understand what you're offering and why they would want it. We talked a lot about your why, and it's funny, I know I talk about my dad frequently on this show, and it's like he's been gone for 25 years, but our relationship continues. And so getting to share about him. I need to bring in my mom because she was and is fabulous too. Let's see, he talked about emotional branding. He talked about slowing down and getting to know yourself and doing research, learning about artists, photographers, other people who have left what we call a tender trail in the world, and discover if you have a message still in you and what that is. So I'm just delighted that Arthur joined us again, and I'm looking forward to seeing him and maybe you in California in mid-November. Okay, stay tuned for next time. Mwah. Bye.